YouTube, what's going on? I'm here to talk about the recent shootings that just took place in San Bernardino, California, at the Inland Regional Center. Um, Tashfeen, Malik, and Syed, whatever the fuck the guy's name is, a married couple. Guy was what, 28 years old, and um, so apparently the guy meets his wife on a chat room, and they meet in Saudi Arabia, and he comes back and he's married to her. He works as an environmental specialist, rents a house in Redlands, California, and comes from describes himself as a devout Muslim. He's American citizen, was born here to a Pakistani family. I think his wife was Malaysian or something from Southeast Asia, somewhere over there. You know, it really fucking pisses me off when the initial reaction of the liberal media is to immediately blame gun owners and guns for the shooting. And before the suspects were revealed, you had all these people on Twitter saying that assuming that it was a white male that opened gunfire and killed these people. And the typical liberal response of, oh well, when it's Muslims they're terrorists, but when it's a white male he's mentally ill. And well, what every white male should just that has a gun should be labeled a terrorist. And, just basically just hating on white men. And but then when it was revealed that it was two Muslims that did the killing, you don't hear any of those bullshit comments. You hear the general liberal deflection of, well, we can't blame an entire race. Just because two Muslims open fire doesn't mean that they're all bad, and this has nothing to do with Islam. This has everything to do with this has everything to do with this is an isolated incident. This doesn't have anything to do with religion. Um, and this is the usual paradox that you're gonna find when you're dealing with this mainstream liberal media. It's anti-white men, and it's giving an apology to minorities when they behave adversely. So it's a whole double standard. We know this. This isn't anything new. Um, our president, who's supposed to be our commander in chief, sits up and time after time says that Islam's a religion of peace, and none of these attacks anything to do with Islam. The Charlie Hebdo attacks, Islam's a religion of peace. When our emissaries were getting attacked following the movie the Innocence of Muslims, Islam's a religion of peace. And now the same bullshit with the shooting in San Bernardino. And of course with ISIS too. So, you know, but if Dylan Roof, who opened gunfire and killed 9 innocent black people, gets called out for being a white racist, someone who was a militant white supremacist, who was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, who was inspired by them, and then if we can draw a correlation between that pedagogy, that belief system, and the behavior, then why can't we draw the same correlation between Islam or I'll even go as I'll even be a little bit lenient and say radical Islam and behavior. No one on the left has the balls to say what it is. And what it is it has everything to do with this fucking religion. It has everything to do with verses in the Quran that are completely heinous and hateful and violent, and people acting upon these verses because they take these verses as the literal word of God. This isn't so. And the real problem is that people in this country are fucking pussies, and they don't want to actually call things as they are. They don't want to actually speak the truth because we have been pussified. We've become bitches to political correctness. And Donald Trump is fucking right. I mean, we need someone like Donald Trump because Donald Trump, at least, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, and I made this point very clear since day one, the guy speaks his mind. He's, you know, I'd like to see ISIS in the situation they'd be under if Donald Trump was commander in chief. Fucking bullshit. This country used to be a proud nation, and America used to mean something, and now America's a big fucking joke, and it's a joke in large part because people are bitches and they cow down to this liberal media, and which wants to castigate anybody who does not aspire to their beliefs. I'm gonna read a quote right here. It's a quote that I've memorized by Friedrich Nietzsche. He says the best way to corrupt young minds is to teach those to value those who think like you as higher than those who think differently. And that's what they're doing, instead of just having a debate with people who have a different belief system, they automatically make ad hominem attacks and call people racists to delegitimize their argument and their positions. And this is a tactic that's been used by the mainstream media, for the past 10 to 20 years. So that's what I take. That's what I make of this. We are being lied to all the fucking time. And one, this attack was obviously premeditated. They had two AR-15s. They had two semi-automatic sidearms. They had pipe bombs, although the authorities claim they didn't work, but they had them. Not only that, they dropped off their son to the grandparents' house right before they went to this party. This was planned, and to not be able to make the distinction between belief system and behavior is just intellectual cowardice, and it has to stop because we're now seeing that we have domestic homegrown terrorist groups in this country who are committing atrocities over right here domestically in our country, and it's people like Obama, and it's people like Hillary Clinton, and it's people like Rachel Maddow and fuck, what's his name? Chris Matthews, and all these people in the mainstream media who are completely bought and paid for, and they're a bunch of fucking pussies. They're a bunch of fucking pussies who won't call out, who won't take anyone to task, and call a fucking spade a spade. Because until we do, until we force these Muslims to truly defend their faith, to open their book and defend certain verses that are extremely violent and heinous by nature, the most odious verses in that book, and we force their hand in it in an intellectual debate, we're gonna continue to at best be able to protect our interests overseas and not be able to protect our interests domestically. Political correctness, I had a mentor. He passed away. He was a very, very well-known attorney in the town that I grew up in. He always told me, he said, the minute you start speaking in political correctness, you're already telling a lie. The minute you start speaking in political correctness, you're already telling a lie. And that stuck with me. And he told me that 6-7 years ago, and I've never forgot it. And it rings true. It's never rung more true than it does today. So, um, you got to understand that there's an agenda going on. The agenda is um, to destroy this country. You know, um, it's to silence anybody who goes against the agenda of the mainstream modus operandi, the mainstream opinion. The mainstream opinion. Um, what their end goal is, I'm not completely sure. I think a lot of people, have an idea of what that is, and I don't know. I'm humble enough to say that I don't know because there's just so many variables. I think to really think that you know what it is taking a leap that I'm not ready to take yet. But I will say that it's clear that they have an agenda and they have diversionary tactics. They have divide and conquer tactics, and they have silencing the opposition tactics. And this is just number three. This is silencing the opposition. You know, if you say anything um, critical of Islam, you're automatically a racist. You're an Islamophobe. You know, and when we have, it's funny. When the movie Innocents of Muslims came out, and our embassies all across the Middle East were being attacked. When Charlie Hebdo, when that magazine publication was firebombed and shot up, and you had millions of Muslims worldwide protesting the magazine. Think about this for a second. Many Jews claim that the movie Passion of the Christ was anti-Semitic and portrayed them in a very incendiary and pejorative manner. How many churches were attacked? How many Christians were attacked? Not one. And that has everything to do with what mainstream Jews believe and what mainstream Muslims believe. And even radical Jews did not attack Christianity or Christians for that film. There were protests. There was criticism, but there was never any violence. But then you take that to Islam, where you have the a French cartoonist that is labeling as displaying incendiary cartoons about the Prophet Muhammad, and you have, I think, almost a dozen people shot up there. It's really a intellectual cowardice, like I said before, to not be able to make the easy distinction that there is a correlation between behavior and belief, or belief and behavior. So I'm gonna leave everybody with that. You know, quit fucking being a bitch. That's really what it comes down to. Like I know sometimes I gotta talk tough to get a point across. I like to keep this intellectual, but there comes a point where I feel like being nice is just not getting the point across well enough. So um, this religion needs to be intellectually attacked, and I don't mean violently. I mean, yeah, they need to be put on put on the spot and forced to explain these verses, because clearly all over the world there's terrorist attacks of Muslims, and yes, there's terrorist attacks by racists and by militant white racists, and we should be condemning them just as much. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but but what we do make that distinction. We make the distinction of Dylan Roof, and the reason that he killed 9 black people is that he's a white militant racist, which is true. But then we can't then say that Palestinian terrorists in Israel, that what happened in Mumbai, what happened in Paris, what happened in Spain a couple of years ago, in Lebanon, in that in 9/11, and now then Charlie Hebdo, and now in San Bernardino. Like we can't, or that the people refuse to draw any sort of link between the two, and it is insane because you goddamn know that if a Christian blew up an abortion clinic, everybody would be saying that that had everything to do with his religious beliefs, and there'd be a clear line of reasoning that would link one to the other. And you know what? Just because these people have to happen to speak a different language and be a racial minority does not make them immune to criticism. And just because you criticize someone who is a racial minority does not make you racist. It does not make you hateful. It makes you an advocate and a defender of reason. I'm out.